Alrighty. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Allies and Advocacy Voices of Allies virtual town hall. For those of you who don't know, Allies and Advocacy is a coalition of disability advocates working to improve the lives of Iowans with disabilities. We believe that all Iowans with disabilities have the right to be active, mobile, healthy, and financially self-sustaining. We also believe that Iowans with disabilities should be able to choose where they live, work, and receive an education. We are a grassroots organization that is dedicated to building bridges and working collaboratively to find solutions to the problems that Iowans with disabilities face. We believe that we are all stronger together and that unity is the key to solving Iowa's greatest challenges. We picked July 25th as it honors the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Former Iowa Senator Harkin was essential in getting the ADA passed. It has opened many doors for the disability community, and now we are working to open more. Tonight, we would like to do some storytelling about a few of the issues impacting many Iowans with disabilities: the caregiving shortage, access to home and community-based services, and perceptions of disability, and then give legislators a chance to comment on those issues. Special thanks to Representative Josh Turek, who agreed to participate in the event with us tonight. Brooke, you just briefly want to pull up the agenda real quick so people can look at that. So here is our agenda for tonight, just kind of a quick little rough draft on who will be speaking and the topics that will be discussed tonight. So to start things off, we will be hearing from Alex Waters. Then we will have a short video by Matt Grillo and his family talking about the caregiver crisis. Alex, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Brady. I appreciate the opportunity, and I will apologize to the interpreter as I have very limited time, so I don't want to speak too quickly, but I want to get a lot of information out. My name is Alex Waters, as I mentioned, and I live in Sioux City, Iowa. I had an accident 2 weeks into my freshman year of college at Morningside, where I injured my C5, C6 vertebrae and became a quadriplegic. After that accident, I went to 6 months of rehabilitation. However, I then chose to go back to college. I got my undergrad degree and then went on to pursue a master's degree. Following that, I went to Washington, D.C. I worked for the U.S. Department of Ed. It was important for me to focus on furthering my education and getting back to being an employed American and giving back and pursuing that American dream, which is what I wanted for myself and what I was fighting for. After I returned home from Washington, I did get a job in Sioux City where I was able to secure supports and caregivers that allowed me to continue to be employed. I've worked full-time at Morningside University now I celebrated my 10-year anniversary last month. And I recently, well, I say recently, it's been since 2017 that I've been elected to the city council for Sioux City. So I'm serving now as a city representative for the 4th largest city in Iowa. It's not a responsibility that I take lightly. However, in 2020, is when I truly started experiencing the caregiver shortage. And you would think it was related to the pandemic, but it was months before that. I had one of my main caregivers decide that she was going to be moving on with her career after deciding to pursue an advanced degree. Following that, I struggled to secure any type of caregiver that would be able to fill that void. And my mom was forced to leave her full-time job and take a part-time job that would allow her to provide my care as well. Then we all know what happened with the pandemic. And suddenly I chose that I wanted to have my own home supports such as my mom and family members, to take care of me so I didn't have an advanced risk for contracting that deadly disease. I chose to do that. Once the pandemic had subsided or somewhat subsided, I decided I wanted to get back to life. I wanted to give my mom her life back so she could move back to our home of Okoboji to live with my father. I wanted to live independently and wanted to choose to live independently. However, now I was struggling to find any type of care, any type of support that would allow me to continue serving the people of Sioux City and continue to work every day at a job that I cared about. And now the problem seems to be more and more exacerbated. It's getting worse rather than getting better. Ever since we've started working through Medicaid and the privatization of it, I've found that a lot of agencies and a lot of support services are finding it difficult to be reimbursed for services. The pay is extraordinarily under what it should be and what the market demands, and therefore people are not signing up to provide this service. I've resorted now, since working at Morningside University, to have to recruit my own care. So here I am trying to find individuals myself that will be able to provide such an essential service for me simply to go about my day. And I am thankful that I have the opportunity to work at a place that has students and individuals that are willing to pick up this task and to perform this essential service to give me this, but also gain them work experience that they want to be able to complete their degree and use in the future. I have one student that's pre-med and wants to go on to be a doctor, and 3 others that are studying nursing. However, it shouldn't be my responsibility. It shouldn't be the responsibility of Iowans to fight and worry every single day about how they're going to get up, about what they're going to be able to do, if they're going to be able to get up, and how much it's going to affect their health and their body should they not be able to get out of bed because they're laying there because they don't have care. We are at a breaking point, and we are at a critical point in Iowa's history where it's no longer just people with disabilities, but is the retirement of baby boomers that is going to further strain the situation. And I'm calling on elected officials to act in the manner of the haste of which this time demands. I want to continue working, just as I'm sure anyone else that pursues their career would like to do. And I just want to be afforded that opportunity. But the caregiver crisis is taking it away from me. Anyway, I thank you so much for this time and the opportunity to share my story. And thank you all for being here and your willingness to listen. I will pass it back.
Thank you, Alex. Such a great story. Really mind-moving. Alrighty. Now we are going to play Matt Grillo's videos.
My name is Matt Grillo. I live in DeWitt, Iowa. I had a spinal cord injury May of 1983 and started using a power wheelchair. I have attended help 4, sometimes 5 times a day, bathing, dressing, transferring from bed to wheelchair using a Hoyer lift. I've been here approximately 18 and a half years. DeWitt and as a town in St. Joseph's Parish have become my hometown, and the ability to get to know people, their friendliness, and my ability to also be a volunteer.
Well, Matt's held numerous positions. He's always been there supporting and helping where he can. In fact, he was just co-chair on the Tootsie Roll Drive.
He's been heavily involved in the independent living centers and trying to get people to acknowledge the problems that some other people have, doing his best to teach people on a local level and on a state level.
We're very proud of him for all that he has done, friendships he's developed, different roles he's taken in the church, being a lector.
I guess volunteerism has kind of been ingrained to me growing up, and that as someone who tries to follow Jesus' teachings, he came to serve, and he has called his disciples to serve, and I try my best to do that.
So we're proud to see that advocacy. What gets really frustrating is the lack of attendant care and his frustration of getting help.
I got strong feelings on what these MCOs and stuff should be doing, and they aren't doing it.
People like myself who rely on paid caregivers to stay in our homes and to be employed and active in our communities has gotten a lot more difficult.
When he needs to be cast and his attendants don't show up, or you can't get attendance, who's going to do it? That's the situation we're in. He can't get attendance, he can't get the help.
The uncertainty of if people were going to get paid correctly and on time has lost me at least 2 caregivers.
It's frustrating for all of us.
If there's nobody else there to do it, what's he going to do? He can't do anything.
Not only is it putting him in deep water, it's increasing his dependence on me and the community for his help.
There's a handful of us in town that come in and fill in when he does not have help here. There's a few of us that dive in at 2 a.m. in the morning or 8 o'clock at night.
I felt that I had exhausted every option that I could think of for recruiting people. So I didn't know what else to do besides look at nursing homes. And if I were to go to a nursing home, it would definitely be out of DeWitt. I may not have freedom to come and go as I please. My parents recently moved to DeWitt within the last 2 years, and they're the closest family that I have. So if I were to move, it would make it more challenging to see them, and they're both getting older, and so I would like to be close to my immediate family.
I've told all 3 of my boys when they were growing up, there's 2 things you can't buy, and that's time and your health. But when I see somebody taking away my son's health, it makes me upset.
Seeing your child, even though he's an adult, go through all these battles, and it's just, as a parent, it's just plain hard.
I'm hurt that these MCOs are doing the job that they are. They've made life nothing but miserable for him. I want him to be healthy, I want him to be happy, which I wish everybody could. But when people are making him worse, that hurts.
My wish is for Matt, number 1, to get steady care. Somebody he can really rely on.
I just, would like to see him be able to live independently.
To stay in my own home, have the independence that I do have, the ability to work, the ability to participate in my community, and I want this not only for myself, but for a whole lot of people that are in my situation, not only across the state of Iowa, but across the country as well.
Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing that video. It really does give us a perspective here on, what you have been dealing with and what others are dealing with. So thank you again.
Hey, Brady. This is Brandon. I gotta go get my meds.
Okay. Join when you can, okay? Thanks. Next, we have Garrett Fry and Chris Graves talking about access to HCBS. Garrett, you have the floor.
Thank you, Brady, and thank you, Alex and Matt, for your video. Very impactful. My name is Garrett Fry. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I was born and raised here. I am currently 41 years old. I am a quadriplegic and on a ventilator. I was hurt back in April of 1987. And I'm going to talk to you about home and community-based services, or the lack of access to home and community-based services, or HCBS, as many of us call it. For myself, I've faced many challenges over the years. For me, it goes back 10, 11 years or so. But in 2012 or 13, my mom lost her job due to insurance, and she is become my primary caregiver. And along with that, I have 2 other caregivers that work part-time. They work about 24 hours a week. So the rest of it's left up to my mom. But in our world, we really call it lack of home and community-based services. We really have health care crisis on our hands. We do not have caregivers or providers to provide essential services for many of us that have physical disabilities. There are currently 7 different waiver programs, and I am currently on the health and disability waiver. But not everyone and not all services are provided for everybody like they should. In my opinion, I feel as though we need to develop our Medicaid system and our human and health human services really try to make it more of needs-based service instead of diagnosis based. But first, my call to action would be to increase the minimum wage of what our providers, our caregivers, more pay, and also more incentives. One incentive could be for students that go to community colleges or other colleges to actually be able to be trained and be able to be interested in working in home care. Secondly, I really feel as though we need the community's help and our legislators' help to bring funding into our Medicaid system for the state of Iowa, because I feel it's most beneficial, most healthiest, less cost effective, or most cost effective to live in our own homes and be a part of our community. I would say that lastly, what we need to develop is or implement is people that really are caring, understanding, passionate about what they do, and that they enjoy it. And I really feel if we could get more funding for pay for our caregivers and providers, and if we could ask colleges to help provide caregivers, I really feel that that would be beneficial. So I really thank you all and really appreciate you being here today. And now I will pass it on to Chris Graves.
Thank you, Garrett. Chris, you have the floor.
Thanks, Brady, Garrett, and everyone else that has shared. My name is Chris Graves. I live in Iowa City. I have a mental illness, and so I don't have the struggles like others do with the MCOs. But I have lots of stories of that kind of stuff when I was younger and more ill. I'm gonna have Brady Berger share a family personal story, how somebody's been affected by the system. Go ahead, Brady.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. My name's Brady Werger again. I am been a member of this Allies and Advocacy group from the start, but I kind of wanted to share a little bit about my family's struggle with access to HCBS ID waivers and the waiting list issues that many Iowans with disabilities have either gone through or faced in their lives. This is more around what my sister has been through. And I do want to thank Senator Sandy Salmon for attending today, because my sister lived in the Waverly area, which is the area that you serve. But kind of starting back from phase one, my sister has struggled with trying to, she's been in and out of different agencies within Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Fayette County area. And due to her dangerous behaviors, these privately owned agencies basically kicked her out of the agency. She spent about 3 months in a psychiatric hospital because there was nowhere for her to go. There was no place that would accept her. So as my family, my parents were dealing with that and some of the legal trouble that she was getting into, we needed to take step 2, which is really to figure. We did apply for her to get HCBS and ID waiver, but they came back and told our family that she does not qualify due to her IQ is too high. We tried several times to get her into agencies like Glenwood Resource Center, the Woodward Resource Center, and once again they came back and said she does not qualify for those services because her IQ is too high. So after those opportunities were basically taken and stripped away from her, we had to take step 3, and we really had to advocate to get her help, the help that she needs to live a fair and healthy life, either in a facility or in the community of her choosing. She finally got approved for the ID 8 CBS waiver, I believe. But this was right after we had to send her to an out-of-state facility at Brookhaven Hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now she was approved for that waiver, but now, since she has been in an out-of-state institution for 3 to 4 years now, from my understanding, is the state is coming back and saying, you've been out of state for too many years, you have to reapply for the waiting list, and you have to be approved again for the waiver. She waited originally for the first time 2 to 3 years to be approved to receive a waiver. And you know, that's hard on an individual that really needs the help right then and there. So she still remains in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we are still struggling to get her back to Iowa to be served in the state where she lived, that she was born and raised. And so I think looking forward, we need groups like this to share these stories and to make people aware of what these really concerning issues are. Because if we don't step up and address these, people at the state capitol are not going to know what these issues are and how to deal with them to make a fair and healthy life for anybody with a disability that might be trying to receive services. And, you know, I keep saying time after time after time that I would love for the state of Iowa to write some sort of a bill that basically would come and say that if somebody tries to apply for mental health services or waivers, that if they don't qualify for that, they're not just turned down, and the state doesn't say, well, we can't help you because you don't qualify. We need to make this accessible to everybody so that nobody gets turned away from services, and so that we can assist people regardless on what they need for help, but assist them to make sure they don't get turned away. So that's my story. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to that, because it is a great concern, and I really hope that within the times looking forward that we can continue to work with our state officials and you know, make change for Iowans with disabilities. Thank you. Chris, do you have anything else?
Thank you for sharing, Brady. And I agree with I also, when I was more ill, was turned away from services and just had to go with my parents because there was no services. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Alrighty. Now we have Sarah Young, Brown Bear. She is going to sign about perceptions of disabilities. Sarah, you have the floor.
I saw the interpreter turn on to turn off the mute. I don't need the voice. Anyway, hello, my name is Sarah Young Bear Brown. I was raised in Tama, Iowa. And I lived on the settlement of Meskwaki. I'm a member of the Meskwaki tribe. I have been deaf since birth. I was born deaf. And I use American Sign Language to communicate. That was my first language. That's why I have an interpreter to allow communication to happen with the hearing community. And so oftentimes I never had access for communication because there was no interpreter. But anyway, I could not speak for myself and I could not hear a sound. So I had no residual hearing. So what I want to share with you, I have many, many advocacy stories. I've been an advocate since probably 2013, 2014. So almost 10 years I've been doing advocacy work. And how did I become an advocate? Well, really, to tell you the truth is I've been doing video logs for social media. It's my platform to share with the deaf community, the hard of hearing community, to share the Native American history, me as a deaf person. And what I noticed throughout the state of Iowa is there is a lack of communication access for the deaf community. For example, not having an interpreter when I request one. This past February, I requested an interpreter and was denied. I am the alumni member for the Iowa School for the Deaf. I graduated there in 2003. I have a second generation deaf student. My daughter, Maya, who is deaf too, and she attends the Iowa School for the Deaf. My son is hearing. But back in February at the Iowa School for the Deaf, shared with everyone through an email that Iowa School for the Deaf would be moved to the Department of Education and would not be under the Board of Regents anymore. So the governor from Iowa transitioned due to the realignment of governmental offices. And I was quite concerned that ISD was being removed from the Board of Regents to Department of Education. How are we, I didn't know what to do. So what I did was I asked so on Twitter, I said something, I said, well, where's this information? Why is the Iowa School for the Deaf being moved to the Department of Education? Why is it not staying under the Board of Regents? So I felt concerned and felt frustrated. I felt there was no transparency from the governor sharing this information with the community. And so I stated something on Twitter. Well, then one person on Twitter let me know that there was a subcommittee about the Department of Education, and also not only was the deaf community was unaware, but the blind and visually impaired were aware. And so there was a bunch of people working on the subcommittee, and the Iowa School for the Deaf was unaware of this situation happening. They did not know that there was a subcommittee, and the House of Representative contacted me through Twitter and let me know. So I passed on this information to the Iowa School for the Deaf, to some of the staff. Hey, you know what? They have a subcommittee to talk about the Iowa School for the Deaf and the blind and visually impaired. They were unaware that there was a subcommittee at the Capitol. And so I let them know about the date. And so we joined the subcommittee, and we contacted an interpreter. Hey, we might need you to come and be a part of this in case they don't hire an interpreter at the Capitol. And so there were several of us. Three of us showed up, and what happened was that the Capitol did not provide an interpreter either in person or virtually on Zoom. We were like, wow, this is impossible. You know, here we are talking about the Iowa School for the Deaf, and the deaf community is not being provided communication access so they can be part of this discussion about the realignment of the School for the Deaf. And so what happened was we let them know, we have a person here who will volunteer to sign, and the staff said, no, we can't use that volunteer interpreter. And we were like, well, what are we supposed to do? And so this interpreter messaged me through Facebook, and she interpreted for us on Facebook. And so the Iowa School for the Deaf, plus myself, some of the staff from ISD, we're watching the interpreter listen in on this subcommittee discussion. Here I am, a mother who is deaf. I have a deaf daughter who attends the Iowa School for the Deaf, and I was very frustrated. There was no communication from the Capitol to the Iowa School for the Deaf. So what did I do? I contacted the deaf community and encouraged them to talk about this issue. It happened on a Monday, so there was the next meeting. I encouraged some deaf people. A lot of deaf people joined that meeting. And I would say there was about 40 deaf individuals who attended the next subcommittee meeting. And we had a chance to talk. There was 6 of us who wanted to talk and share our stories and concerns about why the Iowa School for the Deaf was being moved from the Board of Regents to the Department of Education. And still, the legislators and the senators, we were treated like lower class citizens. That's how we felt. We were treated like lower class. They just said, oh, okay, we hear your issues. And so we had to wait till the meeting was done. And I remembered, and I shared, and then on Zoom, we waited and waited and waited. Once the meeting was done, they would come to us and talk to us, they said. And we waited and waited. No one came. The Zoom was done. The meeting was done. So our voices were not heard to share with this subcommittee. We are constituents of Iowa. We were deprived of communication access. So this was a very frustrating part. So it happened 3 times throughout that week. And then Friday, we contacted one woman who was on the committee and in the legislature at the Capitol in person. So I contacted the deaf community and said, hey, let's go and talk to this person. And we showed up at the Capitol, and they did not provide an interpreter again. We told them we would need an interpreter. Oh yes, we will do our best to get an interpreter. And so we trusted them. And when we showed up, there was no interpreter provided and no reason why there was no interpreter provided. And one person who happened to be an interpreter, who is an advocate, was just there to be an ally, volunteered to be an interpreter for that meeting. And then I went up and talked to the chairperson and I said, you need to pay for this interpreter because you did not provide an interpreter. And I don't know if it got worked out, but then later the next day, they finally got 3 interpreters for their meeting. And it was their last subcommittee meeting. And I wasn't even there to share my thoughts and feelings, but they finally did on the last day of the subcommittee. So I'm finally glad they finally heard us, but come on, we are in 2023. the year 2023, and deaf and hard of hearing individuals should not be constantly asking for interpreting services and then people not following through, knowing that deaf constituents are showing up at the Capitol and requesting interpreting services. They should have that ready and available. We are people of Iowa too. Okay, I think that's it for now. So that's our frustration as a deaf person, not getting communication access. Thank you. But yes, I'm going to continue fighting. I'm going to continue being an advocate. I'm going to continue to ask for access, communication access. So I'm at equal playing ground with all the hearing constituents of Iowa.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again. So we are going to jump forward a little bit, and we apologize that Senator or Representative Turek will not be able to attend today. So we're going to jump ahead, and Zach Meckham, you have the floor.
Yeah, and to ease the representatives that are on to use your mic. We are going to go back to you, and you are going to have an opportunity to ask questions and make comments still after we do this portion. So first off, I want to say thank you so much to our speakers. You have all been fantastic, and I just want to reiterate how important it is that we as disability advocates share our stories. And you know, this is one event, and I'm thankful that all of you are here, but more importantly, we want this to be the first of many events. And we want this to be the beginning of a grassroots advocacy effort in Iowa. We can't do this alone, and we wouldn't want to do this alone. Anybody that's a disability advocate on here, we want to partner with you and help you make your own town hall happen, because the people that represent us need to hear our stories. So I just want to walk through with you how we put this together, how we did this event. I can understand that it's probably a daunting concept to do something like this if you've never done it before, but it's really just a few simple steps that you have to take, and the rest can kind of be taken care of from there. It's not that hard once you get the ball rolling. So I just want to walk through those steps with you really quick and encourage you to maybe start taking those steps for yourself. So the first step, and in my opinion, the most important step, is to prepare your story. I think if you can be ready to share your story with the people who need to hear it, you are already a long way down the path. And I want to assure you that whatever your experience is, your experience matters. And we want people to hear what you have to say. And we want you to do that. So that's the first step. The second is to connect with your legislators. You are their constituent. These people, their job is to listen to you. Their job is to hear your story. Their job is to represent you in whatever office that they share. So reach out to them and share your story with them. A lot of them are very anxious to hear. We have legislators on tonight, and we want to thank you all so much for coming. And the third is to plan a date. You just need to find a location, and I recommend working with your legislators on this portion because they are busy. They get a lot of invites, and they're the ones that need to be there to hear this. So work with them, and that location can be in person and virtual. We chose virtual for this because it is the most accessible for people with disabilities all over Iowa, and we wanted to make sure that people could attend. There is a technical element to that, but you can reach out to Allies and Advocacy for questions, and we can help you get that set up if you want to do something virtual. Otherwise, find a local venue that would be willing to support that. And your legislator could probably help with that as well, because it's most likely not the first town hall that they've done. Fourth is to share your message, right? You need to spread the word to as many people as you can, get as many people to attend as possible, and let people know your experience and your story. Again, it's just so important. What you have to share is different from what anybody else has to share. I think tonight really exemplifies that in the wide range of stories we've heard from disability advocates that come from very different walks of life, but they all deserve to be heard. And so that's really the basic 4 steps. I know that this could be daunting to do it at first, and Allies in Advocacy wants to be a resource for you. So that way you can make this happen yourself. And if you see at the bottom of this graphic, our email is just alliesinadvocacy@gmail.com. If you reach out with questions, we will respond and we will help you. And that is really, other than that, my shameless plug is we want to partner with you on other things as well. So please reach out to us. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to get you involved in what we're doing. Like Brady said before, unity is really how we're going to get things done. So we want you to come alongside of us and to keep moving the needle forward for Iowans with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Zach, are we ready to move on to allowing the legislative and senators and representatives speak now then?
I do believe we are. Yes.
Okay. I would like to start with Senator Sandy Salmon. Sandy, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about the district here that you cover and a little bit about what boards you serve on?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay. As Brady said, I'm Sandy Salmon, and I represent Iowa Senate District number 29, which includes Bremer County, Butler County, Chickasaw County, and most of Floyd County. So that's the towns, larger towns that you would probably know would be Waverly. Of course, that's the biggest town in my district. And then Charles City also, and New Hampton, Sumner, Parkersburg, Allison. Those are the towns that I serve. And Brady, I don't know if I've known you as long, but I've known your dad for quite a number of years. I was in the Iowa House for 10 years and then was elected into the Iowa Senate. And so I've known Brady, I've known your dad for all those different years, and have had conversations with him off and on during that time. So, and you, I've just gotten to know like within the last maybe year or so. So this I appreciate all the stories that were shared. Each one has its own special challenges and that have had to be overcome. And I know that it is challenging. Myself, I have I spent some time for a few months in a wheelchair when I had a lot of pain. I had some surgeries, had a lot of pain, and was in a wheelchair for several months. That was when I was in the legislature, and it was certainly challenging. My husband had to give me a lot of help when I was home, and I have some idea. I don't know that I really have the total idea of what some of you all, the challenges you all face on over such a long period of time, but I have an inkling of an idea. And so just congratulations for all the strides that you've made in dealing with the challenges you faced. It's definitely something to say hats off to those that have met those challenges and found ways to handle and work with within what you are dealing with. So as far as legislation, I don't know quite all the questions you have. I know that we did in this last year appropriate an increase in funding for the home and community-based services. But I know that there's still a lot more challenges that go deeper than that. And the primary one is the caregiver challenge. The shortages that you experience for direct care is real. And I know that it's happening in many different services in the state and in many different industries in the state, are all experiencing this phenomenon. And so it's something that we just have to keep working at. I know that I've advocated for an increase in funding for the direct care workforce, and it's obviously something that needs to continue. And as I don't remember who it was that mentioned the baby boomers retiring, and there's just a less of a workforce to draw on now. So you are competing with a lot of other industries and services for those people that seem to be scarce for filling these jobs. So I don't know that I don't see in the future that a huge influx coming in. So it's going to be something we're going to deal with for quite a while. I don't see any silver bullet on the horizon for it, but it is something that we have to keep plugging away. And I can say I will continue to advocate I talk with the Senate Health and Human Services Budget Chair, Mark Costello. I work with him, and so we'll continue to advocate with him. He's the one that's most familiar with the budget, with the appropriating of the dollars. This year, we focused a lot on the nursing home rebasing and mental health services. And in previous years, we focused on casework within the H&HS, and it's kind of a crisis point, as was pointed out, with the disability community, and there's going to need to be some additional funding and some fixes done there. And I can't say I have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that you know, the need is definitely there. And I also know that we have more people on Medicaid than we've ever had in the state of Iowa over the 11 years that I've been in the legislature. So yet our population has increased a little, but stayed fairly close to the same. So we have a greater need with Medicaid than we've ever had. It's an increase, the highest we've ever had, but yet the same amount of people to pay for those services. So it's something we're going to continue to work on, and it's something that's not going to be solved in the immediate future, but it will be something that will need to be continued to be worked on. And regarding the story of the gal that came, Sarah, that came to the Capitol and there wasn't interpreters, I feel very badly about that. I'm sorry that happened. That certainly wasn't any, it wasn't that people intended for that to happen. I can't honestly say I know where the ball was dropped there, because I don't know. But I appreciate everybody's stories, being able to hear what the challenges are, and I will definitely keep it in mind as we go forward into next session.
Thank you,
Is there
Senator
any questions,
Salmon.
Brady?
No, I think we're good. I think we're gonna we are gonna run a little bit over tonight. So I apologize for those that thought we were gonna be ending at 7:30, but Representative JD Scholten is how you pronounce your name. Would you like to say anything briefly?
Yeah, I would just be brief. I represent House District 1, which is the western part of Sioux City, and just we had the deaf community had an event, a town hall event in Sioux City earlier this year, and it was fantastic, and I think it opened up a lot of eyes. Alex Waters is a friend of mine and keeping me updated on the shortage, the caregiver shortage, and I really appreciate the call to action that was mentioned earlier too. So just whatever you guys just reach out to me. I'm trying to advocate as much as I can. Being in the minority, being a first year member has been limiting, but I think you guys have a huge advocate in my colleague Josh Turek, Representative Turek, and I just want to say thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you, Representative Scholten. I did see in the chat that Brandon, my friend Brandon, wanted to say something real quick. Brandon, you can go ahead and ask that.
Okay, I'm Brandon. I don't know if I have a roommate that's disabilities, and it's kind of hard for him to get around. So I know what everybody's talking about. I don't know how that become a issue for if something could happen for my roommate, because he's like, he lost his leg from some sort of disorder, and it's hard for him to get around in the house that I'm in. And I don't know how to even come with anything to even get the house function for him. We don't own it, we rent it, but it's like it's hard for him to get around. It's hard for him to go downstairs to do his laundry. It's hard for him to walk into the kitchen, and hard for him to get down the steps to the front door. And he is in a wheelchair, but it's not powered or anything. So I don't know how you guys could help out with that or what, but I care for this guy, and he's one of my best roommates. So
Brandon, you're basically talking about making the home functionable for
yes,
somebody with the needs that he has.
Yes, his name's Tony, and he's he has a disability. He has, what kind of disability you have, Pops? What kind of disability is it?
I'm a paraplegic.
Here, come here. He's gonna tell you what he is. He's right here.
Paraplegic.
He's a paraplegic.
I lost my leg due to diabetic.
He lost his leg by doing diabetic. So it's basically he can confess for himself. It's hard for him to get around the house.
Yes, it is.
And
Right.
it's like his insurance isn't doing anything about it to do something for the house. And I feel bad for him because he's like a father to me.
Yeah.
And I would hate to see something happen to him and not be able to get around the house without getting hurt.
Right.
Like there's no
And I'll-
safety bars in the bedroom or in the bathroom
Right.
or for him to get downstairs. So I'm worried about that. So
Yep.
That's why-
Well, and that's what everybody in this group is here for. We're trying to advocate for stuff like that. So you
yeah,
know, the
and
more stories we hear, it can help us make that change. So thanks, Brandon, for sharing that.
Nope. Thank you, Brady.
Hey,
Um,
Brandon,
Yeah.
reach out to us via email, and I think we can connect you with some people that can help you out.
If you want, Brady has my number. So
Yep.
if you ever want to get a hold of me, just ask Brady for my number and I'll give it to you. And you can talk to me sometime like Thursday would work for you, Zach.
Yeah,
we'll connect,
will-
yeah, we'll connect with you for sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
just contact me and I'll talk to you about it.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Yep, thank you.
Zach, I do want to also thank Daniel Van Sant with the Harkin Institute for joining us tonight. Daniel, I know you do a lot of work with the Harkin Institute, and I wanted to say thank you for your work. You know, if we didn't have the Americans with Disabilities Act, right, a lot of us wouldn't be able to live fair and healthy lives in the community. But real quick, you know, my family has kind of a neat story with the ADA Act and the Harkin Institute. Back in 1990, when Senator Harkin wrote the ADA Act, my grandpa was the architect that worked with Senator Harkin to pass the ADA Act bill, right? Because a lot of the work that they were doing when they wrote the ADA Act was trying to make sure that code was up to date. So when buildings were built, that you know they were handicap accessible. They were accessible for people with any sort of disability, either if it's a cane, walker, wheelchair. So it's really neat to be able to say that my grandpa helped with writing the ADA Act, and 33 years later, we're still chugging along, and we are still fighting, and we are not going to give up on that. We're going to continue. So thank you for your work with the Harkin Institute, and Senator Harkin, you know, is doing great things with the ADA Act, and I strongly believe that you and your office will continue that. So thank you. Zach, is there anything else
Yes.
today?
Yeah,
Matt has his hand up, Brady, and then we probably need to close it up.
exactly. Yeah, I'd like to give Matt an opportunity to speak. And for those of you that don't know, Matt is the person that was featured in the video earlier.
Yep. Go ahead, Matt.
All right, thank you for your permission to speak here at the end, even though it wasn't on the agenda. What Brandon just raised with the issues with his roommate is a nationwide problem that the ADA does not and is not structured to address, and that is accessible housing, accessibility in single family housing. There is other legislation that deals with that somewhat, but it is very difficult to navigate. What we need in this country is for builders and developers to implement universal design and visibility concepts nationwide starting now. However, every person that I talk to say it's either too difficult, too expensive, or nobody wants it. However, with our aging population in this country, it's going to be needed by more and more people. And it usually happens to somebody when they are in their house. They either have a stroke, an injury, or an illness that renders their home unusable partially or fully. So I realize this was not on the agenda, but I want to summarize what Brandon was getting at, that is another huge need, not only for the disability community, but our society as a whole. Because in regards to the people that have the mobility disabilities, I can count the number of houses that I can visit in my town of 5,300 people that I don't need ramps to get into on one hand.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Matt. And it's funny that everybody mentions that that's not possible, right? It's too difficult to do, and I think that's a common thread that we see. We saw that during the ADA Act. You know, the key argument against it was that it was too difficult. And Sarah's conversation, you know, they said it was too difficult to have interpreters, and obviously it wasn't. They eventually made it happen, and I think that's a great thought to close on as we are seeking change as allies in advocacy. So thank you. And also thank you to everybody that's here with us.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you to all of our representatives for being here and getting involved. We believe that building relationships and working together using our own individual talents and power for good is how we improve the lives of Iowans with disabilities. We hope you come away from this town hall with the recognition of the importance of telling your story to your legislators and other decision makers. It's what opens doors to change. We would like to thank you for getting involved, and we hope we can work with you in the future to keep making Iowa a better, more inclusive place. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight, and have a great night. Thank you.